everyone. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. Fiery, feisty, phony. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, it's been a wild week, and now it's Flashback Friday.
We come together as one nation, bringing America together, uniting our people, uniting our nation. With unity, we can do great things, important things. Unity. Unity.
Now, we know he didn't really mean any of that, but at least he tried to sound gracious. But last night, Joe Biden came off as angry, divisive, and resentful.
The threat to democracy must be defended. My predecessor and some of you here seek to bury the truth about January 6th. In a literal sense, history is watching. History is watching. My God, what freedom else would you take away? Putin of Russia is on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. My predecessor failed the most basic presidential duty that he owes to American people, the duty to care.
The State of the Union is supposed to be a president's report to Congress about how the country is doing under his leadership. It's not supposed to be a rant against your political opponent and those who support him. Of course, there's important context here, courtesy of NBC. President Joe Biden's team is increasingly taking extraordinary steps to minimize disruptions from pro-Palestinian protests at his events by making them smaller, withholding their precise locations from the media and the public until he arrives, avoiding college campuses, and, in at least one instance, considering hiring a private company to vet attendees. Okay, but just because they're afraid Biden will crumble and stumble if he's confronted at a real campaign event, it doesn't give them license to abuse the constitutional mandate to report on the State of the Union. Now, just for a moment, imagine if Donald Trump had delivered that kind of State of the Union address during his presidency. The press would have gone berserk. They would have said vicious, no decorum, no sense of propriety, an abuse of the forum, polarizing. But it all played out as I predicted last night. Prediction. In a few hours, the media will be lavishing praise on Biden. You'll hear people saying that it was amazing how Biden knocked it out of the park, how he put to rest the doubts about his stamina. He nailed it. And then, like clockwork.
Oh, my God, he knocked it out of the park.
I thought he was fabulous.
He just completely blew away the Biden is too old issue.
You saw him really showing his political acumen and his political muscle.
This was a tour de force. He had Frazier's left hook. It was his best speech of his presidency by far. Strongest speech.
At one point today, MSNBC and CNN even used the same adjective to describe Biden's performance at the same time: fiery. Well, I told you. They're spinning themselves dizzy. We'll see soon when real polling comes out, but in the long term, I don't think the speech helped him at all. In fact, I wish he would give speeches like that every week. After all, I love The Simpsons.
Hey, everybody, an old man's talking.
Grandpa's the name. Did you know this tree dates back to frontier times?
Wow.
Shut up! Who's laughing now? Shut up!
Now, this Joe Biden, the brawler, tough guy image, is just farcical. I mean, does anyone on planet Earth think Vladimir Putin or President Xi watching that speech last night and they thought to themselves, oh, wow, we need to worry about that guy?
My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away. We will not bow down. I will not bow down.
Now, first of all, if he did bow down, it's anyone's guess whether he could actually stand back up. But the truth is, Biden's power doesn't come from his personality. It comes from his rich donors. It comes from the DOJ and the deep state harassing his political adversaries. And of course, it comes from the media. But no one fears Biden himself. Of course, his numbers, as usual, didn't add up last night. He claimed a new billionaires tax that he supports would give him $500 billion over 10 years. Okay, $500 billion, 10 years. Now, that's less money in 10 years than we're projected to pay in interest on our debt in 1 year. So this wasn't a speech. It was kind of a letter to Santa.
While we're at it, I want to give public school teachers a raise. We're launching the first ever White House initiative on women's health research. I want to provide an annual tax credit that will give Americans $400 a month for the next 2 years. I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza.
Now, look, I guess he's going to do the thing in Gaza, but the rest of it was just lines in some, in a speech put there because some political consultant overpaid thought that it would help with one constituency or another. None of it had anything to do with the serious problems facing the nation. We're not going to lower inflation by borrowing more money. That's how we got into this mess in the first place. Now, 4 years ago, the case for Biden was that he was going to calm everything down. He would get us back to normal. Remember that? It was going to be about unity. But now, the idea that Biden will become a respected, strong leader because he yells and he tries to intimidate conservatives or, I don't know, even Putin or Xi, it's just absurd. Not a single person who opposes Biden's reelection watched that speech and felt less confidence of Trump's chances. It all seemed like a big act, and a bad one at that.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.